Hey guys, it's JP, and in this video we are going to go over ways to work on the glutes at home. Since most gyms are still closed at this time, I want to go over ways to continue to train key muscles used in running. Now the reason I chose the glutes, specifically the GLUTE MAX, is that it is especially involved in the push-off phase. This is the moment where the foot pushes against the ground and moves you forward. These muscles seem to contribute more to this, especially as you run at higher intensity speeds like sprinting. However, due to the current situation with limited equipment available, you may find it difficult to work on these muscles. While you may not be able to train the muscle at a very high intensity, simply performing exercises that target the area at a moderate intensity still may allow for improvements in strength for beginners, as well as keep gains made for those who are more experienced lifters. So now, let's go over some exercises that target the GLUTE MAX that can easily be incorporated at home. The first exercise I will go over is the marching bridge. This is more of a dynamic variation of the bridge that challenges the hips, including the glutes, a little more. To do this one, you basically go into a bridge position like so. Then, you perform alternating marches while maintaining this position. Some things to remember is to try to keep the pelvis in line with the body and don't let it drop. This will make sure you continue to engage the glutes during the exercise. I typically start with people performing this exercise for 30 seconds for 3 to 4 sets. Once you master this one, you can try a more advanced variation of the bridge. This is known as the alternating bridge with straight leg raises. This exercise challenges the glutes more. This is basically the same as the previous exercise, but instead, you will keep the leg straight as you alternate between each side. Due to being a little more advanced, there are some common compensations to look for. The first is one we have mentioned before when performing these dynamic bridges by keeping the pelvis from dropping. The other compensation is raising the leg too high. This actually makes the exercise less challenging for the glutes, so a good cue to follow is to keep the thighs in line with each other. Now, similar to the last exercise, I typically look for people to initially perform this for 3 to 4 sets for 30 seconds of straight leg raises. The next exercise we'll go over is the deadlift. This is a very popular and great way to train the posterior chain muscles of the leg, especially the glutes. Now, even though you don't have a barbell at home, you can perform this with any weighted object that you can safely carry, like a box as shown here, or even a big bucket filled with items. When doing the deadlift, make sure the weighted object stays close to the body. This will make the hip muscles work more rather than the back itself. Now, as you lift the object, try to keep the back straight and keep the core and trunk muscles engaged. Then, as you lift the object from the floor, a good cue to follow is to try to drive the feet through the ground. This will help you engage the glutes. Then, once you get into a tall position, you can repeat the exercise. Now for the deadlift, I typically start with having people lifting a moderately heavy object for 3 to 4 sets of 10 reps. However, I should note that it is important to work on technique before trying to lift heavier objects. The last exercise I will go over is the forward step up. This is actually a variation of the standard step up that biases more of the glutes rather than the quads. To do this one, all you really need is an elevated stable surface like using the stairs. Now to do this, place your foot on an elevated surface like so. Now make sure to keep the back straight, however, you will be bending forward from the hips as seen here. Then, push straight down through the foot as you raise up. However, try to place most of the weight on your front foot and try not to compensate by pushing up from the back leg. Then, once you get into a tall position, you can safely lower down and repeat. For this one, I typically start with people performing this for 3 to 4 sets of 10 reps at a moderate intensity. If this feels too easy with your current setup, you can try it at a higher stable elevated surface, or you can hold weighted objects. And those are a few ways to continue to train the glutes while being stuck at home. I hope you guys found this one useful. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the video and any ideas that you have for future ones. And as always, thank you for watching.